Researchers have spent decades studying happiness, and what they found isn't what most people expect. It isn't money, it isn't status, and it isn't luck. It's daily behavior repeated consistently. At UC Riverside, Sonia Lubomirsky ran the numbers and found that roughly 50% of your happiness baseline is genetic, about 10% is circumstance, your job, income, environment, and 40% comes from intentional activity. 40% is daily behavior. 40% is the part you control. Here's the rule before anything else. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It's something you practice. In the research, that practice is called intentional activity. There are 7 habits that consistently fill that 40%. And the 7th is the one most people never reach. Habit 1 is deliberate gratitude. At the University of Pennsylvania, Martin Seligman asked one group to write down 3 specific good things each day for 1 week. 6 months later, they were still measurably happier and showed lower depression scores. Your brain is wired for threat detection. It evolved that way. Deliberate gratitude overrides that default bias. Specificity matters. Produces a much stronger neural response. 3 specific things, written down every morning. Habit 2 is daily physical movement. Exercise increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which researchers often call miracle grow for the brain. John Rady at Harvard documented how BDNF supports neural growth, reduces cortisol, and shifts serotonin and dopamine upward at the baseline level, not as a temporary spike, but as a sustained adjustment. The data does not require extreme workouts. It requires consistency. About 30 minutes, 5 days per week, is enough to produce measurable psychological benefit. Miss 1 day and you recover. Miss the habit entirely and you start rebuilding from zero. Habit 2 is simple. Move daily. Habit 3 is high-quality social connection. The Harvard study of adult development followed 724 men for more than 85 years, and it remains the longest longitudinal study of happiness ever conducted. Its central finding, summarized by current director Robert Waldinger, is clear. The strongest predictor of happiness and longevity at age 80 was not wealth or fame, but the quality of relationships at age 50. Loneliness activates the same stress pathways as physical danger. The nervous system interprets social isolation as threat. The happiest individuals don't necessarily have more friends, they have deeper relationships. One real conversation has more psychological impact than 10 superficial ones. Habit 3 is one meaningful connection each day. Habit 4 is deliberate acts of kindness. In Lubomirsky's research, participants who performed 5 acts of kindness on a single designated day each week experienced significantly greater increases in happiness than those who spread the same acts across multiple days. The effect wasn't just emotional warmth, it was agency. Acts of kindness trigger oxytocin and serotonin release, often described as the helper's high, but they also interrupt rumination. Much of unhappiness comes from repetitive inward focus. A single outward-directed act disrupts that loop neurologically. Habit 4 is one intentional act directed outward, every day. Habit 5 is structured engagement in flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi at the University of Chicago defined flow as complete absorption in a task that is challenging but achievable, slightly beyond your current comfort zone. During flow states, time perception shifts, self-consciousness decreases, and performance improves. Afterwards, subjective well-being rises reliably. The happiest individuals don't wait for flow to happen. They schedule it. They identify the task at the edge of their ability and do it early before distractions accumulate. Habit 5 is one deliberate flow session each day. Habit 6 is deliberate presence. Harvard researcher Matt Killingsworth tracked more than 2,000 people using real-time experience sampling and found that individuals spend about 47% of their waking hours mind-wandering. When the mind wandered, reported happiness dropped, regardless of whether the thoughts were positive, neutral, or negative. Presence itself was the variable. A daily practice of focused awareness, even 5 minutes of structured stillness, strengthens attentional control. It isn't lost time. It amplifies the quality of the rest of the day. Habit 6 is 5 minutes of trained presence. Habit 7 is daily alignment with meaning. Viktor Frankl observed in the most extreme conditions imaginable that meaning was the deciding factor in psychological survival. He described it as the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's response in any circumstance. Modern research supports this observation. A 14-year study led by Patrick Hill at Carleton University found that individuals with a strong sense of purpose were 15% less likely to die during the study period. The happiest people do not drift into meaning. They align with it deliberately. Each day includes a small action that answers a single question. What am I building toward? Without meaning, the other habits become tasks. With meaning, they become a system. 7 habits consistently supported by research: deliberate gratitude, daily movement, deep connection, intentional kindness, structured flow, deliberate presence, and alignment with purpose. 40% is the operating space. These habits are what fill it. You don't need all 7 tomorrow. You need 1. Choose the one that costs you the most to ignore. Start there. Remember you're built from habits. What are you building?